So in most stories, they're the ones doing the hunting, right? The predators. But not in this one. Here, the things that go bump in the night are suddenly on the menu. We're going to dive into a story about a very tight-knit supernatural crew and the terrifying mystery that's about to unravel not just their friendship, but their entire city.
Yeah, we're all used to supernatural beings being at the top of the food chain, the ones lurking in the shadows. But this story just flips that whole idea on its head. It asks a really simple but totally chilling question. What happens when the monsters are the ones being hunted? A premise like that tells you right away that something new and something far, far more dangerous has just stepped onto the board.
All right, so the whole thing kicks off with this just brutal, completely disorienting ambush. You've got this crew of allies doing their thing in a quiet city park at night, and in just a few seconds, their entire world gets turned upside down. And you gotta understand, this isn't just some random fight. This is the moment, the spark, that sets everything else in motion. Okay, so to really get what's at stake here, you need to know this term, coterie. Basically, think of it like a chosen family, but for the damned. It's a small, deeply connected group of supernatural beings, and they have to rely on each other to survive in a world that, frankly, wants them dead. When one of them is threatened, the whole structure could just collapse. And this is the key. This isn't just a team. It's a lifeline.
And you won't believe how fast it all went south. Out of nowhere, this monstrous wererat just explodes from the shadows. It lets out this scream, right? And it's so deafening, it basically paralyzes some of the crew. And in that split second of chaos, a living tide of rats just erupts from the grass. They completely swallow up a coterie member named Kalinda, and then just as fast as it started, the swarm is gone. And so is she. All that's left are a few shredded pieces of her jacket. She's just gone.
You'd think a shock like that would bring them closer together, right? Nope. It absolutely shatters them. Faced with this overwhelming fear and grief, their survival instincts just clash, and this moment of shared trauma turns into a powder keg. And that's our first big insight here. Sometimes the monster in the dark isn't the real threat. It's the fear and paranoia it leaves in its wake.
So this is the moment the coterie just cracks. Their two leaders have completely opposite ideas. On one hand, you've got the Undertaker. He's all rage and loyalty, and there's no way he's leaving without answers. But on the other hand, there's Zane, and he drops a bomb. Another ally from another crew is also missing. He argues their only logical move is to fall back and get to safety. It's your classic head versus heart debate, But the stakes are literally life and undeath.
And this is where the tension just boils over. One of the members, totally on team, let's get the heck out of here, actually pulls a gun on the Undertaker. This isn't just a disagreement anymore. It's a full-blown standoff. I mean, the family is now pointing guns at each other. They're about to do the enemy's work for them.
And the Undertaker's response? Just pure, uncut defiance. He doesn't flinch. He basically looks him in the eye and dares him to pull the trigger. And in that one exchange, you can just feel the raw emotion, the loyalties breaking apart, and the whole group is just stuck there, totally paralyzed and exposed in this dark, creepy park. So right when it looks like they're about to tear each other apart, something impossible happens. A brand new player enters the game, a mysterious raven that appears out of the darkness, and it talks. It offers this cryptic message that just completely changes the direction of the entire night. The raven drops this riddle on them, and it's part warning, part invitation. The beasts in below the earth are your enemies, the beasts on top of the hill your friends. We wait for you. So, okay, this confirms the attack was from below ground, but the really interesting part, it points them toward potential allies. And just like that, this one cryptic clue pulls them back from the brink. They stop fighting each other and start focusing on this new, very strange mystery. So they follow this weird new lead, and pretty quickly they realize this problem is way, way bigger than they thought. Their ambush wasn't just some random act of violence. It was just one small piece of a huge citywide conspiracy. At first, all signs point to a pretty well-known faction, the Nosferatu. If you don't know them, these are super secretive, sewer-dwelling creatures. Very territorial, definitely a major power in the city's underworld. They're the obvious suspects for any kind of coordinated attack coming from below, but as it turns out, the truth is a whole lot messier. And here's the twist. It comes from a Nosferatu informant. She actually confesses that, yeah, her people were behind other attacks across the city that night, but, and this is a huge but,
They had absolutely nothing to do with the wererat that snatched Kalinda. So suddenly, they're not dealing with one enemy, they're dealing with two. An old rival they know, and some terrifying new player that's moving in the shadows. And the scale of this whole thing, it's just staggering. It turns out at least 4 different crews, 4 coteries, were hit in these perfectly timed, coordinated strikes all across the city. Yeah, this was no random mugging. This was a purge, a calculated, citywide purge. And the big question is, who's behind it and what do they want? Okay, so the crew pulls back to a junkyard to try and make sense of all this. And that's when the story takes another nosedive into pure terror. They don't just get a clue about this new threat. They get a full-blown, horrifying vision of it. And believe me, it is so much worse than they ever could have imagined. So check this out. All the junked cars piled up around them, they just start to groan and shift on their own. Like the whole scrapyard is waking up. And then, bam, this massive psychic wave just washes over the coterie, forcing this awful vision right into their minds. It's an experience that leaves some of them just completely broken. And this is the chilling message one of them starts chanting, just over and over, completely catatonic with fear. It's coming. It's gonna break the mask. See, this isn't just about some new monster on the block. Breaking the mask. That means shattering the secrecy, tearing down the wall that lets the supernatural world hide from the human one. This new enemy doesn't just want to hunt monsters, it wants to burn their entire world down. Which really leaves us with one final terrifying question. What kind of monster hunts other monsters?